Is college worth it? Maybe. Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Hancock, and along with my definitely worth it friend Patrick Curran, we make up Quantitude. In this week's In the Wild episode, we conclude our unexpected cluster of college-themed conversations by turning our Quantitude loose on the ultimate question, is college worth it? In particular, we discuss how the multi-layered, individualized, and ever-changing nature of a college education all make this question especially tricky to answer. We hope you enjoy this week's episode of Quantitude in the Wild.
So remind me.
Yep.
Did you go to college?
I did go to college.
Okay, follow-up question.
Okay, yeah.
Why did you go to college?
I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons. Probably the simplest is I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And to be a doctor, I would have to go to college. Otherwise, there was just sort of this school inertia that I had, right? I've been in school. I've always been in school. I like school. I'm good at school. I'm going to keep going to school.
Until you found out that the bio building was at the top of the hill and you didn't want to walk to the top of the hill, so you became a teacher.
Why did you go to college, Patrick?
Part of it was expectation. I come from literally generations of teachers and nurses, and that's what you did. Mm-hmm. But I almost didn't go to college. I very truly wanted to be a cop. Mm-hmm. I was going to go into the Army and be a military policeman and then go into police academy or whatever that would be. But my dad, who was a high school teacher, we sat down on the back deck, and I know now later he very much wanted me to go to college. Mm-hmm. We had this lovely long talk. I was very close to my dad. He was U.S. infantry, and he said, you would benefit from the Army, because I had some behavioral problems, and he was like, you would come out a better man if you went into the Army, and I totally support that. And then to this day, I think he just lied. And he said, but remember, you need a college degree to be a detective. Without a college degree, you're only going to be a street cop. Okay, I think he just lied. I think he has no idea, and he just lied to my face. But I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And so then the question became, do I go to boot camp or go to Boulder, Colorado, where the drinking age is 18? And I pondered that for about 8 seconds, and that's why I went to college. But it was very much for a credentialing stamp. Yeah. I needed a college degree to be a detective, and so that's why I went. So why are we talking about this? Well, it was the deep patio planning we did last summer where this issue didn't come up once in everything that we wanted to do, but somehow we stumbled drunkenly into talking about a whole bunch of college-related stuff.
Yeah, so when we created In the Wild this season, we weirdly found ourselves in this academic path. I mean, it's not so weird when you think about what we do. Right? We did the SAT exam. We talked about GPA. We talked about using essays for college admissions. We talked about college rankings. So we found ourselves gravitating to this space that we seem to have some experience in, I guess. And, a really lovely thing happened as a result of that. I was talking to a colleague who said that she has a son, and they as a family listened to those conversations as her son was thinking about getting ready for the whole college process. And, it kind of leads to this question of why do we even go to college? I mean, is college worth it?
I think that's a fascinating question because we can pose that for a lot of things in our life is why do you want to get married? Why do you want to have children? Why do you want to save for retirement or buy your pickup truck you've always wanted? I think it's fascinating to think about what is the point of college? Because something that's very salient in the news right now is college worth it? Do you get your return on investment?
Commencement season is underway around the country, but students are facing steep loans and too often dicey job prospects. That's led many to openly question whether a college degree is even worth it anymore.
That gets us to the in the wild statement. And let's just go super simple.
Okay.
College is worth it. Maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
It's a fascinating question, but you almost have to back the truck up a bit and say, what is the point of college? And are they successful in doing that?
I don't even know that the point of college is the same today as it was back when we went to college. So I am going to stare you down, history boy, and ask you, what do you got on the history of why college was even created?
This is so fascinating. Early days, you could think about college as like this membership in a learned tradition. You'd have grammar and rhetoric and logic and mathematics and astronomy, which did put the Earth in the middle of our planetary system. Not everything was exactly correct, but
Close enough.
close enough. I mean,
The model fits.
no, it does. That's actually a true thing.
Yeah.
You can make highly accurate tide charts by having the sun rotate around the Earth.
Got a good RMSEA.
It's got a good RMSEA, and the church is not going to set you on fire. So
there's
it's
that.
kind of a win-win.
Sparing his life from this monstrosity.
But it was trying to create this class of clergy members and lawyers and physicians and scholars and things like that. And then when it started to grow in America and American colleges, it was kind of similar, but it was very like religious civic oriented. So it was not mass education for everyone. It really was to preach, to teach, to govern. And then came the liberal education. This one I really liked as it transitioned more into the college as kind of like this maker of judgment, of teaching people how to think. That one is fascinating. And I love the liberal arts. Like, have you ever thought about that? Almost every major university has some form of college or something of arts and sciences or liberal arts and sciences. And historically, it came from liberating the mind from ignorance. That's what the liberal is, right? Liberal is to set free, to liberate. That's the base of the Greek term, is to set free. And so it liberated you from ignorance and from prejudice and from provincialism and things like that. And that became like the whole intellect. That's how sometimes I personally think about college is, sure, we teach kids how to do a multiple regression or who won the Battle of 1812. It's really, how do you think? How do you pose a problem? How do you collect data? Are you capable of serious thought? And then it transformed from there to this kind of democratization and college as a pathway to the middle class. So it became more practical, right? There started to be ag schools, improving agriculture, having engineering. It was a very practical, public serving kind of thing. Industry, applied sciences. And then, it kind of moved into what we know and love, the research university, right? That all of that stuff mixes together, but now the major university is also a bed of innovative, novel production of research. And really after World War II and the GI Bill, where all these veterans could go to college for free, that really nailed down, you go to college so that you can get a better job and move into the middle class. So those are super broad strokes, but that's kind of the historical arc of where we came from way back in the day to what a typical university is like now.
Yeah, it's so funny. On the one hand, I remember I was lecturing along with Ken Bolin, actually, at the University of Bologna, which is the oldest continuously operating university on earth or something, founded 1088. And I remember putting my hand on this rock from the original foundation of the university. It just felt so huge, so classic, the way that you were describing it. And then at the other end of my existence, I sit in my office and my son Tate, who is now a freshman and who has played the theme song for the podcast forever, he comes into my office and I ask him to tell me about college. And he tells me about, oh yeah, we were over at the gym and then we went out to the club. And he doesn't get to anything academic until like minute 25 of him telling me what's going on. So college is this place where it had this one orientation historically, but it has evolved into this thing that has many purposes for many people.
So let's then pivot to not what is actually the point of college. What is aspirationally the point of college? Because I think those two things can be very different. That is, what an institution aspires to, and then what they're able to actually do during the 4 years they're there. And you know how bad I am with analogies. Have you ever been at one of the car washes where you drive up and the guy yells at you because you're not lined up quite right on the little track thing, and then you put it in neutral?
1978, but yeah, okay.
Well, no, there's one here in town, and I go through this, and it pulls you through the car wash. I always think about when your car gets hooked up, that's the freshman walking onto campus on August 15th. And then you get pulled through this car wash and it does all this stuff. And then you get dumped out at the end of the car wash. And there are two questions that arise. One is, what the hell just happened? And two, was it really worth the $25 I paid?
And by the way, they really should have a sign that says, close your sunroof. That's not, sorry, that's a different story. In your tortured metaphor.
It's not. It makes perfect sense.
Okay. University of Colorado. So a college or university has many different responsibilities to many different people. But what you have just done, which I'm really glad that you did, is we said, let's look at this just from the perspective of the student. So at the risk of disrespecting your car wash analogy, let's pull back and just ask, what the heck are you going to get for your money when you are going off to college? There are so many different things that a college or a college experience have to offer. What are you actually getting, and is college delivering on that?
Okay, we'll just start out with there is absolutely the transmission of knowledge.
Yep.
You take biology and chemistry and introduction to psychology and sociology and econ. Think about the hundreds and hundreds of classes. And we teach facts across all areas. Absolutely. But the other one that's really interesting is when you start moving to the softer targets, trying to teach a kid how to think with discipline, how to respond to adversity, how to be planful, how to develop yourself, creativity and leadership and civic mindedness, ethical judgment, disciplined disagreement. How do you disagree with somebody but do it in a thoughtful, respectful, disciplined way? And the big one that all of us are doing is the learning to learn, right? It's not so much that you need to remember the Kaiser-Gutman rule, but what you learned is, how do I take in some future problem the empirical evidence I have in front of me and make a holistic, empirically informed decision so that I can move forward? So the huge thing I see in college is teaching a kid to learn in the future where they don't need me.
It's interesting that you say that, because when I started in college, I lived at home. So I would take the bus to college every morning. I would go to class. I would sleep in the study carrel in the library, finish my classes, and then I would get on the bus and come home. College had the role for me of only knowledge transmission, right? Went to class, got the information, studied that information, and then I was back in the same bedroom I had been in since I was a kid. But the things that you describe are viewing college more as this microcosm of the world, and we are training you for the world. And part of the training that you get to be in the world is absolutely subject matter knowledge, because you're going to choose something to be expert in and have a career in. But in that world, the bigger world that you're going to go off to, you also have to be a citizen. You have to be someone who presumably gets along with other people, who is engaged civically, who does all of those things. So the way you describe college is trying to prepare you for going out into the world. And that is actually what I see when Tate comes into my office and tells me about all the things that he has going on, things that his dorm is arranging, or things that this club that he's a part of is doing. And they all are trying to create, in total, this more comprehensively and holistically prepared human being to go out there into the world. And that was very different from the view of college that I had when I started.
Why, yes, I can tie it to airplanes. It'll take me a minute or two to pull Churchill into it, but let's stick to the airplanes for now.
Sure.
What you just described and how I think about it, and again, what's so fun about this topic is everybody who's listening right now has their own opinion about what college is for, their own expectations. And so we're not pontificating here at all. Everybody has a different perspective as what is the purpose of this? Why would a kid go? What would you expect to get out of it? But I think flight training is a really good example of this. There is unambiguously a knowledge transmission component, right? My buddy Barry down the street, we had him on the podcast.
Yes, we did.
Talking about flying F-14s off of aircraft carriers.
I am actually not a paid actor. I did fly F-14s in the Navy.
But Barry literally is the head of flight instruction at a major flight school here in the area. And there's a huge element of here's what the plane does, here's what the gauges do, here's how you operate it. So there's that knowledge transmission. But he talks a lot about in flight training, you cannot possibly prepare for every scenario. So what you do is you prepare a pilot to deal with whatever scenario may present themselves, even if you've never covered it in a book or a lesson or in a flight training activity in that. And a great example of that is when Sully landed the A320 in the Hudson River after a double engine loss. He was interviewed after and he said, there was never a training for losing both engines at 1,500 feet.
This week, we're covering getting hit by birds.
Human-piloted simulations showed that you could make it back to the airport.
No, they don't. No one warned us. No one said you were going to lose both engines at a lower altitude than any jet in history. No one has ever trained for an incident like that. No one.
But his decades of experience and training of how to deal with some form of emergency allowed him to save every life on that plane. So that's how I view it. Unambiguously, there's knowledge transfer, but we can't even imagine the world these kids are going to be living in 10 years. And so what I see are conveying these softer targets of discipline, planfulness, frustration tolerance, knowledge acquisition, informed decisions, these kinds of things that whatever the hell they're doing 6 or 8 years from now, if they're working for my brother's company and my brother walks by and yells in the room that he wants something done by noon and they've never done that thing before, they have the capability of doing it just to avoid my brother yelling at them.
What a great point, though, that everything that we do in college as far as training goes, or as far as the environment that we're creating goes, is time-stamped in the sense of what we're doing and the fact that they are entering a world that eventually will be different, as it is for us. It is such a great point that we want to create people who are able to adapt to new things, not just people who remember the things that they learned and the experiences that they had. So then if you ask a college to list all of the things that they are going to do for your kid, the knowledge transmission, the civic engagement, all the things that you mentioned are on the list. So then the question is, how do we know that colleges are delivering on the things that are on the brochure? How do we know that you as a student are actually going to be getting those things?
Oh, damn. I don't even know where to start with that one.
Yeah.
In the admissions, you talk about leadership and creativity and grit and perseverance. I mean, this is super handy because I already dug up the corpse of Smitty Stevens. And it's right here in my office, which is, yeah, he's grunting over there. What is the principled assignment of numbers to observations, right? This is where we start pivoting into a quantitative lens on this. To even know if college is having an impact, what the hell is the outcome? What are you measuring? I mean, imagine we got a handful of things that we somehow want to evaluate. Is college effective, right? We're working toward, is college worth it? But the first one is college effective?
Yeah.
And so knowledge, creativity, leadership, civic-mindedness, character development, all these things that we were talking about. It literally is a homework assignment in construct validity.
Yeah.
What the hell do you mean by self-discipline? Give me a definition of that. And then how on earth would I get a numerical assessment of that? And then, oh, funny story, how am I going to evaluate some kind of causal effect that you attending college led to you improving your self-discipline. What in God's name is the counterfactual?
Exactly. So step one, measurement nightmare, to the point where I would say colleges and universities probably don't even do it a whole lot, right? If they went to the list of things that they have on the brochure, on the website, all the things that they're going to do for you, my guess is that most of them aren't even assessed, in part because they don't even know how to operationalize those things.
Every major university has some form of Office of Institutional Research. And they're really smart people who work really hard in that to look at some of these things. But a lot of the things that they measure are a bit of the tail wagging the dog, meaning that they look at things that they have numerical values on because they're able to have numerical values on those things. So really important things. I'm not minimizing this, but things like GPA, retention, completion rates, number of honors classes kids have taken, awards achieved, right? Things that we could observe. It is extraordinarily difficult to look at, did your civic mindedness meaningfully improve while you were a student at the University of North Carolina? And did it improve more than it would have had you not attended the University of North Carolina?
And that is the problem right there. Imagine that the counterfactual for you had been going to boot camp, going to the military. How do I know that you're not every bit, if not more, civic-minded, having been through that experience when we examine it 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road? And the example that always comes to mind in these situations is that wonderful movie Sliding Doors, where there is this moment in time where this person's life fragments into these two streams, and different things happen, and whether or not you reach the same end point is part of the question of the movie.
Have you ever wondered what might have been if you caught the train instead of missing it? 2 lives, 2 chances, and a destiny that lies behind 2 sliding doors.
So you go to that car wash, and on that giant button panel that you could press, ultra rain-proofing windshield. God, I can't believe I'm buying into this. So you punch in the things that you value, and one Patrick peels off and goes through the car wash, and another Patrick peels off and goes through whatever the alternative is for Patrick that's not the car wash. I want to know whether your civic mindedness differs whether you did or did not go to college. I want to know whether your life satisfaction, whether your sense of community, whether your belonging in society, whatever it is you punched in on that keypad when you got to the car wash. I want to know which of the 2 Patricks wound up experiencing that satisfactorily, and I don't know that it's the one that went through the car wash.
Now, what's funny is that what you were thinking in a movie reference is this brilliant Sliding Doors. That's my wife's favorite movie of all time, and she's watched it like 10 times. And if you haven't seen this, make it a date night movie. It is really remarkable. What I was thinking was a scene from something that Sylvester Stallone was in. And he was telling this young kid what the real purpose of college is.
It's a slightly different genre.
You think anyone really gives a shit about what your major is? The whole point of a college degree is to show a potential employer that you showed up someplace 4 years in a row, completed a series of tasks reasonably well and on time. So if he hires you, there's a semi-decent chance that you'll show up there every day and not his business up.
So that's kind of how I think about it. But I like your little hoity-toity parallel universe one.
Counterfactual, counter-schmactual.
But what it is like a lot of the conversations we've had in this neck of the woods, it's less what is the answer to the question and more how do you pose the question? What do you mean? Is college worth it? What are the dimensions that you're evaluating? How would you assign some kind of numerical value to that? And how would you rank that in some way of saying, yeah, I mean, I paid a boatload of money here, but look what I got for it. Right? It's like the claw machines. My brother loves those claw machines.
Really?
Oh, loves them. He'll put a buck in and try to get Toothless the dragon out of it, and you never win the damn thing.
Ever.
I think it's the dumbest thing to possibly do. But my brother loves it.
Huh.
And it's like he gets satisfaction because someday he's going to get Toothless. So the same claw machine is completely not worth it to me.
Yeah.
Because it's just throwing $1 away. But my brother doesn't care about the thing that you get. It's like this challenge to try to beat the machine.
Who's in charge here?
Claw is our master. Claw chooses who will go and who will stay.
So is the claw machine worth it? It depends.
I'm going back to the car wash
God.
again.
You know it is called Churchill's Car Wash, right?
What?
Well, it should be. But I've been able to get Airplanes and Winston Churchill and Toothless the Dragon all in one episode, so I'm kind of killing it today.
There we go. So, the thing about Churchill's Car Wash is that maybe going through the car wash is good for a Prius. Maybe going through the car wash is not good for a 1974 Dodge Dart. Right? We talk about this as though, is it a good experience? Is it not a good experience? But there's so many background characteristics that make that a different car going through the car wash, right?
Think, is college worth it for an individual at a given institution in a particular field with what probability of completion of studies, at what price, financed how, compared with what alternative, and evaluated over what time horizon.
So is it worth it? Worth what? And for whom?
Exactly. The notion that when you hear someone very strongly say, well, college isn't worth it because you can make as much money as a plumber.
Yeah.
Okay. First, I try to do my own home plumbing because I like trying to be handy. And rarely, if ever, do I finish a job without calling a plumber. These are some of the most skilled craftsmen on the face of the planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so just realize that that is a highly restricted question to say college isn't worth it because you don't get your money back. Is just a misplaced question.
Yeah.
I take weekly trumpet lessons and I drive over to this guy's house. I give him cash and he teaches me jazz improv. Are my trumpet lessons worth it from a return on investment? I can tell you unambiguously, they are not. I could get neighbors to maybe pay me to not practice.
They would chip in, pay you $100 a week not to take
Exactly. So, I mean, there's an ROI on my trumpet lessons for not playing. But is it worth it to me as an individual because I find it fulfilling and it makes my life a little bit more meaningful than it was without it? Oh, you're damn right. I love it.
Yeah.
But panning back in, the final big shot at the end of the movie is how do we use our quantitude to think about this issue that is college worth it? So you're at Thanksgiving dinner, you're at a summer barbecue, you have your own kids, you're talking to your niece or your nephew, whatever it might be. You always use your Uncle Larry.
Yeah.
Uncle Larry says, well, college is a waste of time and money. College isn't worth it. How are you going to respond to Uncle Larry?
Yeah, well, that is exactly it. Uncle Larry says, why would you even bother going to college? I think one of the things that you have to help Uncle Larry understand is, first of all, you don't know necessarily if college is worth it, but you can think through, well, what are the things that I would value? What are the things that I would press into that keypad about college? Because it's entirely possible that Uncle Larry, when he thinks about college being worth it or not worth it, he may only be thinking about it in terms of the buttons he would press or the buttons that were available when he was going to college. Maybe it was much more only about knowledge transmission at the time that he was going. So I think you would have to articulate for your Uncle Larry about, well, there are a lot of potential benefits that you can get out of college. More knowledge is one of them, but also contacts and credentialing and just learning about life when you are there, and maybe make the conversation more about whether or not those are things that we all value and whether or not you would get those experiences out of going to college.
And also having an open conversation about expectations. I have an extended family member who was very angry at his college after he graduated because they didn't get him a job.
Oh.
And he had been told somewhere, somehow, whether it be through TV or movies or parents, I have no idea. This is an extended cousin of mine. It's a true story. Mm-hmm. And he expected that if he did this and if he paid this, when he got done, he would have a high-paying, respectable job, and he didn't get one. And he was very angry, and to this day, he has been very angry. And so I think another huge part of it are setting expectations of what can a college realistically do for you. Mm-hmm. If you have a blue car going into Churchill's car wash, you ain't going to come out with a red car, right? If that's your expectation, you are going to be deeply disappointed. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of it is, well, what do you mean? Let's reform the question. But a lot of it also is, what can a college realistically accomplish? And I got to tell you, especially for kids who maybe are not investing as much effort in the process as they possibly could. The kid who has the Starbucks sitting in front of them and just wants you to fill them with information, right? It's a two-way street. Uh-huh. If you're going to take the trumpet lesson, you got to come home and practice and annoy the crap out of Frank. Frank is my next-door neighbor. I always thought it was a coincidence every time I started practicing as he fired up his little lawnmower. And now I'm noticing that he just lets it idle in the driveway while I practice. It's a very unenvironmentally friendly white noise machine for the neighborhood.
Your trumpet is causing climate change.
It is. My trumpet produces carbon monoxide. On that note, folks, this really was just two old guys who have been in the rodeo for a while, and we hope that you've had some degree of entertainment out of it. As always, we appreciate your time and your complete and total lack of judgment for spending it with us.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Take
See
care.
you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for joining us. You can subscribe to Quantitude on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you go for things to listen to while you're going through the car wash. You can also follow us on X, Blue Sky, or Instagram, where we are at Quantitude Pod, and visit our website, quantitudepod.org, where you can leave us a message, find organized playlists, show notes, syllabi, and other fun stuff. And finally, get cool Quantitude merch from redbubble.com, where all proceeds from non-bootleg authorized Quantitude Pod merch go to donorschoose.org to help support low-income schools. You've been listening to Quantitude, the podcast where you're always sure to get what you paid for. Maybe even twice as much.